This video is sponsored by Surfshark. If there's one thing the recent death of conservative talk show host Charlie Kirk has revealed, it's that we all grieve in different ways. Especially when it's the loss of somebody who was beloved by many as a generational voice of conservatism, so coldly taken in his prime by an assassin's bullet. Across social media, we've seen an outpouring of tributes and grief from prominent figures like Donald Trump, the president, and the man who Kirk dedicated most of his life to getting elected. And from such a dedicated portrait of service, we got some truly rousing emotion from Trump, who is well known to be a kind-hearted and emotionally deep man.
How are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty. It'll be an absolutely magnificent structure.
And this was just one day after. You can tell just how broken up he is. And how much he clearly misses his very dear friend. We then saw the outpouring of very real and not at all performative grief from Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, a multimillionaire who immediately sent out a call for donations from TPUSA right after not so subtly threatening the nebulous they responsible for Charlie Kirk's death. Like I said, we all grieve differently, and in the case of Charles Kirk, it seems like some of us barely grieve at all, at least before moving on immediately to monetizing the death of a loved one. But strangely, I've seen a more genuine sense of loss and grief from people who didn't even know Charlie personally, from people who were inspired by his message, grew up seeing him as a kindred spirit in conservatism, or who were swayed by his incredibly convincing arguments. And regardless of what I personally feel or don't feel about his passing, I can respect and understand that for many in his audience, emotions are running high right now. And even as an evil LGBTQ+ Marxist, leftist Antifa operative atheist, I solemnly swear I won't make fun of Charlie's death or how people have reacted to it. Mostly because the AI slop being made to celebrate him is far more insulting and scathing than anything I could come up with. In the wake of his assassination, it's not surprising that a large outpouring of support has been seen on social media, and given conservatives' love of AI art for the memes they can use to see the world they want to be true but actually isn't, a lot of those tributes to Charlie have been entirely AI generated. But the gallery of horrors you're about to witness isn't merely your average soup of low-effort AI content, but a look at a culture in crisis, attempting to deal with collective trauma in a uniquely American way, distastefully, and with Jesus and SpongeBob. But before we talk about things you're tired of seeing on the internet, let's talk about how you can find things you'd probably rather be seeing instead of this AI cowboy SpongeBob Charlie Kirk tribute. Now, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you're overwhelmed by this constant cycle of news. It all seems so bad. You'd rather just relax with a movie from your childhood, like Master of Disguise or Aquamarine. Remember Aquamarine? But let's say you find it online, but it's not available in your country because you're the first person since a 10-year-old in Blockbuster in 2004 that said, hey, let's watch Master of Disguise or Aquamarine on purpose. In today's busy world, it's not always easy to know where you can find the media you want, and if you do find it, how to access it. Which is why this video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark makes it easy to take control of your internet browsing. They have over 3,000 servers in 100 countries worldwide, allowing you to keep your location safe from people online while also bypassing region locking for streaming services like Netflix and Hulu. So no more limiting what media you can access based solely on where you are in the world. But Surfshark isn't just for getting your 0% on Rotten Tomatoes fix. It can also help you stay safe on the web. With Surfshark's Clean Web feature, you can surf the internet without worrying about malware, phishing attempts, or annoying pop-ups. You can also use Surfshark's tools on the go to help hide your identity and information when using public Wi-Fi, or change your region while traveling to access services like Spotify. And as a special offer, you can get 4 months of Surfshark free when you sign up by going to surfshark.com/deaddomain or using the code DEADDOMAIN. One more time, that's code DEADDOMAIN, or go to surfshark.com/deaddomain for 4 months free when you sign up. And with that out of the way, let's get back to something that's arguably worse than Master of Disguise. Arguably. Few things are as boomered up as the scourge of AI meme slop. It takes the art form of the boomer meme, honed and crafted in countless Facebook minion JPEGs, and dashes them against the rocks of empty sentimentality. The first thing I need to preface before jumping into this pool of goop is just how schlocky and hollow so many of these AI tributes feel. They range from baffling to straight up disrespectful, and I don't mean that so much as a defense of Kirk's legacy, but disrespectful as a tribute to literally anybody. It relies on this cloying brand of surface level sentimentality that's like if a Hallmark card could cry at Marley and Me. It's like divorced dad beat poetry for someone who learned how to rhyme exclusively from listening to Creed lyrics. First off, you've got a series of posts that don't even really make sense for who Charlie was, seeming to be either shitposts or algorithmic slop made to capitalize on his name trending after his death, among other names of people who recently died. Here's him sitting around a grill with the Duck Dynasty and Deliverance star Phil Robertson, who probably agreed with Charlie wanting to get rid of gay people. But then there's Ozzy Osbourne just chilling, hoping Jesus doesn't ask him any questions, clarifying if he actually bit the head off a bat or a dove, because honestly, Ozzy was probably so honked he doesn't even remember which one it was. Now, Jesus being featured along Charlie is going to be very common, but a unique one I found was Charlie featured alongside Freddie Mercury, a gay immigrant, two things Kirk sorta didn't really love. And also Brian May, lead guitarist of Queen, who is also notably, as the corrective comment from the original poster notes, still alive. And these images are unfortunately just the tip of the iceberg, because once people start making more actual moving videos with AI garbage, the real nightmares begin. There's this uncanny valley IDF propaganda where Charlie's rictus simulacrum is puppeted to give Israeli genocide apologia.
But America and Israel, from this day on, will never be the same. This is the wake-up call. They tried to shut me up. They couldn't stand a voice that didn't sound.
I particularly like how another running trend is Charlie barely resembling his real-life counterpart, usually because it gives him more normal facial features and proportions. The Israeli defense angle touting Charlie's apparently, according to his good friend Bibi Netanyahu, steadfast support of Zionism is another recurring theme, along with white Jesus, which is kind of a really great look at the bizarre, divergent brand of Protestantism Charlie represented. Kind of like this AI garbage where he's swaddled in dual citizenship, I guess. I don't know, maybe he had some allegations coming down the pipe and even heaven has non-extradition like Israel. I like this bizarre video that looks to be shot as though it was a selfie camera, but it also features Abraham Lincoln. If it is to be believed, Honest Abe has been bunking with Mr. Jesus in the big log cabin in the sky. And judging by how close he is with Charlie, look, I'm not saying anything for sure, but maybe Jesus turns a little water into wine and they see where the night goes. You may have seen this one floating around, courtesy of Benny Johnson, which attempts to put Charlie Kirk into the Studio Ghibli knockoff style that's been chewed up and regurgitated so many times, it's now an entirely artistically distinct nightmare. One other thing you see a lot in these videos is Charlie standing up quickly from the actual place he was shot, because a lot of people scrub through the actual video of his execution to train the AI off of, which is its own sick kind of nightmare. In this one, he jumps right out of the chair and shuffles right on up the stairway to heaven like the coach finally called him off the bench for the big game. I also like how Jesus looks like he's in a community theater performance, and the way the shot is framed feels like you can almost see the edge of the film set, like that one shot from Evil Dead 2 during the chase sequence. Yeah, if you've never noticed that, when the spirit's chasing Ash to the house, if you look up in the top corner, you can actually see the sound stage. This one kind of plays as the not as good direct-to-DVD sequel where Charlie salutes the camera before the spirit of Alfred Hitchcock takes over and vertigos the whole goddamn thing to shit as Charles Tiberius Kirk wiggles up the stairs that makes your pants smaller. Now, Jesus, like I mentioned, is a mainstay for sure. I guess a lot of people like to visualize death as Jesus being played by a 34-year-old man named Dusty, who gives them a big ol' hug as they shuffle off this mortal coil. But like everything else in this nightmarish AI quagmire, you can never really predict where these shifting mercurial amalgamations will take you, or in this case, the AI-ingested face of Charlie Kirk. This flag-strewn example is a particularly egregious account where not only is Charlie barely recognizable, apparently heaven gives free facial masculinization surgery, but with all these Jesuses, Jesui? Jesui? With so many Jesuses and flags, this one plays more like what Rush Limbaugh probably saw with the last firing of his neurons. If this makes you sad, by the way, just imagine how many people felt a genuine emotional connection or even cried while looking at this. And I wasn't kidding about the progressively more deranged versions of this, like this one where Charlie is sock puppeted back to life and contrasted with Christian martyrs and prophets. Notably, Charlie Kirk was neither. But this one, but this one honestly takes the batshit AI boomer cake. A man inexplicably born with a SpongeBob head and voice singing about Charlie with AI lyrics. We will get to the AI musical tributes in a moment, because it's funny how when you actually listen to the lyrics, they're just nonsense. But more bewildering is the way the character changes sizes, shirts, art styles, and expressions so often it feels like looking into this bizarre, dark SpongeBob multiverse, like Marvel's What If it dared to ask, what if SpongeBob knew every state's age of consent? Or what if Patrick slept with SpongeBob's wife and now he works dead-end jobs and can barely make child support payments? And as to be expected for such a polarizing political figure, a lot of these half-hearted, ill-considered, and generally in poor taste tributes paint Kirk among ideological lines, but like everything else, entirely outside of any tangible reality you might be familiar with. Like him cradling the Ukrainian woman recently killed on a train by a mentally ill man. Notably, it looks nothing like her. The AI didn't even try. In fact, there's a brief moment where she looks like an Asian child, which I'm sure has nothing at all to do with how AI is trained and ingested on images that it's outputted based on other people's prompts. Anyway, this one's funny because he inexplicably grows wings to Xavier, renegade angel her out of there before the AI puts her face back in the porn generator it took it from. I love this one, which was shared by known dipshit Drew Pavlou, that depicts Charlie shaking hands with Malcolm X. And I love it particularly because it doesn't seem like Drew actually knew who Malcolm X was, just that he was a civil rights leader, not even that he was a Muslim. And I think that sentiment of people not really knowing how many historical figures would have disagreed with Charlie is kind of everywhere. Like post comparing him to JFK and Martin Luther King Jr., someone who was killed for advocating for civil rights, while Charlie has said that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake, and he vociferously called MLK a very bad person when he was alive. And just like Charlie, I want to go back to Jesus for a second. I like this one looking like a Michael Bolton album cover before Jesus materializes and suddenly it looks like every other Grindr profile tagged looking for group fun. And look, we've made some jokes here about these incredibly distasteful displays of emotional ineptitude, but there's one that really just takes the cake for me, and that was the AI of what Charlie would say if he could say one last thing.
I knew the risks of standing up in this cultural moment, and I'd do it all over again. Second, do not let this violence divide us further. The enemy wants chaos, fear, and retaliation. Don't give it to them. Instead, double down on truth. Double down on courage. Double down on your faith and on your families. That is how you honor me. Third, remember this. America is worth it. Free speech is worth it. Fighting for the unborn, for families, for sanity in a culture gone mad, it is all worth it. So dry your tears, pick up your cross, and get back in the fight.
Where apparently, if Charlie could talk from the spirit realm, he'd hit a single monotone note and basically say, hey, everyone's all right, and being Christian is super cool. Jesus, man. But finally, I need to finish with the worst of the bunch, and that has been the AI music videos, like this one inexplicably made as a tribute with Adele and Ed Sheeran.
I can make sense of a soul so bright, brought to an end. You stood for truth, you carried pain through every storm, through fire and rain, but hatred's hand was far too cruel. It broke the light, it broke the rule. Now flowers fall where you should stand. We hold your memory in trembling hands.
Now, if someone writes a song, it generally takes a lot of work. effort, thought, and production to make it a reality. Unless, of course, you decide to just press the Charlie Kirk tribute by Ed Sheeran and Adele button, which gives you this bullshit. With lyrics like, "May heaven's arms give your soul release," and "The world will cry, but your life won't see." It's like Christian nationalist fridge magnet poetry. The other problem with AI songs is that, like all this other garbage, they feel emotionally empty, filled entirely with meaningless platitudes that could apply to any loss or situation. You might as well have bought Charlie Kirk a "get well soon grandson" card at Walmart. For example, this Post Malone tribute. Was Charlie Kirk a big Post Malone fan? Was Post Malone a big Charlie Kirk fan? I don't think either of those apply.
World of corruption, you stood for the truth. They tried to silence, but they couldn't dim you. Your light grew louder, it carried on, a flame of courage, forever strong.
I'm just going to read some of these lyrics and marvel at the outpouring of apparent emotion from the comments. These could also be bots, just AI view-botting this slop. Quote, "They tried to silence you, but couldn't dim you. Your light grew louder. It carried us on." I also like the cover art for this one having a fading guitar and piano behind Charlie. It's fitting because apparently music died along with this video. If it's not generic pop ballad slop, it's generic country ballad slop. And the most surprising thing is that nobody seemed to care even a little bit if the lyrics are good or even make sense. And honestly, there are way too many of these to go through, all with AI covers featuring Vivo, sometimes misspelled, because I'm assuming they're just ingesting other pop music videos to make the AI covers. It's top to bottom slop. But I will leave you with this last little chestnut.
Bible in the heart and a promise in his hands, but a shadow reached from a coward's perch, cut down a son in the middle of church. And I swear if the tables turn the other way, y'all know there'd be fires in the streets today. But here we stand with candles and a folded flag, begging God for mercy on the road we drag. How dare they steal the breath from a faithful man? How dare they stain the grass where his boots once stand? They call us evil, point at our cross, then pull that trigger and reckon no cost.
Here we stand with candles and a folded flag, begging God for mercy on the road we drag. How dare they stain the grass where his boots once stand? They call us evil, then point at our cross and pull the trigger and wreck no cost. It's pure gobbledygook. Meaningless gruel taped and stitched together from 1,000 other meaningless pieces of internet content floating around on the dead internet. And that brings me to the very end of this brief look into the maddening world of AI Charlie Kirk tributes. Look, it's not a lot, but more people need to be cognizant of this stuff because holy shit, we are wrecking the planet for this. And none of it can even be called art. There are entire pocket industries now based on just trying to steal views from completely unsuspecting and ignorant people who may actually be emotionally affected by Charlie Kirk's loss. But then they'll just go on to these slop factories that are just pumping out endless waves of identical content that is completely meaningless. I can't even begin to think about the psychological damage having this completely emotionally empty content be used for people to actually process their trauma will do. It's really, really dark stuff to think about. But in the meantime, while we still all have to live with it, and as everything seems to get a little bit worse, I think we can all take a little bit of gratification in laughing at it, because good God. And one more time, don't forget to go to surfshark.com/deaddomain or use code deaddomain at checkout for 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN when you sign up. One more time, that is code deaddomain at checkout or surfshark.com/deaddomain, or you can follow the link down below. Hello everybody, and thank you for watching this latest little side video I've done. There's been a lot happening lately, and understandably, I think a lot of people are pretty tired of hearing about Charles Entertainment Kirk, which is why I only really have one video left on the subject to contribute, and it's less about him and more about Cashapp and the kind of influencer government that we are now saddled with. That being said, I wanted to do this quick little diversionary video as something slightly more lighthearted in the mire we're all stuck in because, man, like, just look at some of these things. But I always have other things in the works, so if you enjoy my content or enjoy videos, even little ones like this, please feel free to throw a couple bucks my way at the links down below or sign up on Patreon to get access to the Discord and have your name featured alongside all these cool cats and kittens crossing your screen right now. As always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for watching.